Imagine this: a wedding where the bride cries not from joy but from inevitability. A wedding where the future of an entire family is decided behind closed doors, where one test can shatter a girl's life forever, and where the most important, most unsettling moment doesn't come at the end of the celebration, but right in the middle of it. Welcome to a world you may have heard whispers about, but likely never truly explored. The world of Romani wedding traditions, where honor, ancestry, and fate are intertwined in rituals so old and so intense, they can take your breath away. In this episode, we're pulling back the curtain to reveal what these ceremonies really mean, and why the wedding night carries a weight unlike anything else. Get ready, because this story will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about marriage. One of the first things people associate with Romani weddings is the shockingly young age of the newlyweds. And no, it's not just a stereotype. It's a deeply rooted, centuries-old practice. Girls are married off young, often between the ages of 15 and 18. But history records even more extreme cases, with girls entering marriage at as young as 10 or 12 years old. Why the rush? The answer is layered, woven through culture, survival, and tradition. One key reason, ironically, is economic. In traditional Romani communities, a daughter reaching a certain age is seen as a financial burden to the family. Marriage isn't just a celebration, it's a strategic solution. It shifts responsibility from the parents to the husband's family, reducing material strain while also securing the girl's future. In that sense, it's both a survival tactic and a means of social order. But it goes even deeper. The purity of the bride isn't just valued, it's mandatory. In Romani culture, virginity is the cornerstone of a family's honor. A bride must be innocent. A groom, likewise, should be free from addiction or destructive behavior. Marriage is seen as a moral anchor, a way to guide the young toward responsibility, stability, and family life. Without these values, it's believed, a person risks becoming lost, an outcast in their own community. These customs didn't emerge from nowhere. They are a direct result of the nomadic life and harsh conditions that defined the Romani past. When medicine was primitive and life expectancy short, early marriage was a practical necessity. It was how families guaranteed survival, protected future generations, and provided essential support and protection in a dangerous world. And here comes a dramatic truth. If a girl isn't married by the age of 19, she's considered old, undesirable. It's not just a judgment, it's a social sentence. Families feel immense pressure to act quickly, to never miss the window, because missing it means social death. Once the decision to marry is made, the real work begins. A Romani wedding is not just a family celebration. It's an event that can shake the ground beneath you. Preparations begin months in advance. No expense is spared. The wedding table must overflow with abundance. A wide variety of hot dishes, elegant snacks, and endless drinks are all essential. But make no mistake, while celebration is expected, losing control through alcohol is seen as deeply shameful. The bride and groom's parents play a crucial role, often preparing traditional dishes and handmade salads themselves. And forget any idea that the guest list will be small. Romani weddings can bring together up to 300 guests from all over the world. Accommodating them is a massive challenge. Families reserve entire hotel floors or rent out houses. Clothes are carefully selected, entertainment planned down to the last detail. And here's something important. All major costs, from the venue to the feast, are covered by the groom's family, while the bride's side prepares a generous dowry. The money involved is no joke. Some families save for years, others borrow from relatives. Some even take out loans just to meet the expectations of a proper wedding. Because this isn't just a party, it's a public display of love, status, and respect for tradition. And then comes the wedding day. You might expect unrestrained joy. And yes, it's joyful, but not for everyone. Right before the most important moment of all, the wedding night, the true celebration begins. Guests are singing, dancing, and feasting. Everyone is happy except the bride. According to tradition, she sits at the table and quietly cries. These aren't tears of joy. These are tears of goodbye. Goodbye to her family. Goodbye to her carefree youth. Goodbye to a life she knew. From this moment on, she must obey her husband, enter a new world, and live by new rules. That's why the image of the Romani bride is often one of sadness and solitude. Interestingly, at Romani weddings, the newlyweds do not sit at the main table with the rest of the guests. Instead, a separate table is reserved just for them, decorated with special care, symbolizing their new status as husband and wife. And in this small detail, you'll notice some curious parallels to Polish wedding customs. Just like in some Slavic traditions, the couple kisses an icon held by the parents and tastes the wedding bread, symbols of abundance, blessing, and new beginnings. But that's where the similarities end. Unlike the typical rowdy and chaotic dancing common in many cultures, Romani weddings follow strict decorum. Men and women remain on separate sides of the hall, and physical contact, especially during dancing, is strongly discouraged unless absolutely necessary. This isn't about modesty alone. It's a deep expression of respect for personal honor and traditional values. Another distinctive aspect: Romani families typically do not register their marriage with the civil office. In their eyes, such documentation is meaningless. Why? Because in Romani culture, divorce is virtually non-existent. The only exceptions are among Orthodox Christian Roma, who may choose to seal their marriage both through tradition and with a church wedding. But even then, it's the traditional ceremony that holds true spiritual weight. And now, at the very height of the wedding celebration, when music plays loud, the guests are laughing, dancing, and enjoying an endless feast, comes the most solemn, most nerve-wracking moment of all. The wedding night. For the Roma, it doesn't come at the end of the 3-day celebration. It happens in the middle, right when the party is at full speed. The bride and groom quietly leave the reception and go to a special room prepared just for this moment. But this isn't simply an intimate encounter, it's a ritual. One that, when completed, officially confirms the marriage in the eyes of the community. But how is the success of the marriage measured? The answer, as you may already suspect, lies in the bride's virginity. The entire union hinges on this one condition. And there are two ways, both extremely specific, both deeply controversial, used to confirm it. The first is the most common. After the newlyweds enter the room, they are accompanied by 2 or 3 elder women known as SFATY, trusted, respected matriarchs of the family, or women chosen specifically for this role. The SFATY wait outside the door like guardians of ancient codes, ensuring privacy and protecting tradition. Once the couple has completed their first act of intimacy, the SFATY enter the room, retrieve the bedsheet, and inspect it. If it carries the expected evidence, the clear symbol of virginity, then the news is announced. But it isn't whispered, it's proclaimed, proudly and loudly, to all guests. The stained sheet is held up like a banner, confirming that the bride was pure, and the marriage is now valid in the eyes of everyone present. At this point, relief floods the room. The tension breaks. The celebration resumes with even greater intensity. But if you think that's the most intense version of the ritual, think again. There is a second method, a more invasive, more controversial one. It's rarely practiced today, but its existence reveals just how serious these traditions are. In this version, the bride does not go into the room with her husband. Instead, she enters only with the SFATY. The groom remains outside, waiting. What happens next is difficult to even describe. One of the elder women takes a bedsheet and, in a ritualistic act, manually draws blood from the bride, mimicking the natural sign of virginity. This act, performed by a relative or designated matron, is not only physically painful, but psychologically scarring. Hygiene is often neglected. Emotional trauma is almost inevitable. Still, the ritual is carried out, and the stained sheet is once again shown to the crowd. If, however, no blood is found, whether naturally or otherwise, the consequences are devastating. The bride is immediately disgraced. She and her family are cast out from the celebration in shame. The marriage is declared void. Her chances of finding another groom within the community are effectively destroyed. Her social standing collapses. Her future, ruined. On the other hand, if she passes the test, then something remarkable happens. She returns to the celebration not in the white dress of the innocent maiden, but in a bright red gown. Red is not just a color, it is a declaration. She is now a woman, a wife, a rightful member of her husband's family. This transformation is deeply symbolic. marking the transition from girlhood to womanhood, from daughter to matriarch in training. From the moment the bride dons the red gown, everything changes. She and her husband are now regarded as full members of the community, not just in name, but in responsibility. From this point on, they share everything, not just their lives, but their property, their status, and the burden of carrying forward the family line. And to solidify this new chapter, one final ritual is performed, a powerful and ancient act known as blood bonding. In this ceremony, the hands of the newlyweds are gently cut with a small blade, just enough to draw blood. Their palms are pressed together, or the blood is mixed with wine in a ceremonial cup, then shared between them. It's not a mere symbol, it's a sacred pledge, a declaration that their fates are now joined, their lives fused, not just in love or law, but in blood. This is how the Roma define true union, not by paperwork, not by rings, but by ritual, spirit, and sacrifice. Once this final act is complete, the celebration enters its final stage. Guests now bring forth generous gifts, money, gold, jewelry, offerings to the new family. These are not token gestures. In many cases, these gifts make up the couple's entire starting fortune, providing them with a foundation on which to build their lives. And only after this final showering of generosity, after the formal rituals and symbolic acts have been fulfilled, do the bride and groom finally retreat in privacy. It is now that they spend their real wedding night, away from the eyes of elders and guests, away from traditions and expectations. A night that truly belongs to them. A night that marks the beginning of their life as husband and wife. Looking back on all of this, one might be shocked, disturbed, even outraged. But it's important to understand, Romani wedding traditions, while intense, are not random. They are the product of centuries of hardship, adaptation, and deeply held beliefs. Marriage for the Roma is not a private affair. It is a public contract, a moral bond, and a spiritual joining that holds the weight of the entire community. It is a ceremony that affirms identity, honors ancestors, and ensures the survival of their way of life. And though some of these practices may seem harsh, even brutal, they reflect a unique worldview, a world where purity is power, where honor is currency, and where tradition is the law. These rituals are echoes of a time when survival depended on structure, when communities relied on rules to protect themselves from outside forces. And while modern life has challenged many of these customs, they remain alive, guarded by elders, passed from generation to generation, whispered into the ears of children as stories, then lived again in the songs, dresses, and vows of each new wedding. So next time you hear the music of a Romani celebration drifting through the air, remember, behind the joy, behind the colors and the dancing, lie ancient codes, unspoken, sacred, and sometimes terrifying. Because in this world, a wedding is never just a wedding. It is a test, a trial, and a transformation. And for the bride, it begins not with a kiss, but with a tear. If this story made you see tradition in a new light, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the rituals that shape human lives across time and culture.